The mining vessel Horizon drifted through the empty space of the Cetus system. Its powerful drills, currently idle as Captain Jack Reeds, studied the sensor readings on the main bridge console. He frowned, tapping the screen with a weathered finger. "That can't be right," he muttered. The stars in the nearby cluster appeared dimmer than they had been just hours ago. Jack had spent 15 years navigating the outer systems, harvesting precious minerals from asteroid belts and forgotten moons. He knew the stars like old friends, and something was wrong with them today. "Lisa, come take a look at this," he called over his shoulder. Lisa Torres, the ship's science officer, pushed away from her workstation and floated over in the low gravity. Her dark hair was pulled back in a tight bun, and her eyes narrowed as she studied the readings. "The luminosity has dropped 8% in the last 4 hours," she confirmed, tapping through additional screens. "And it's not just one star. It's the entire sector." Jack leaned back in his chair, the old plastic creaking under his weight. "Have you ever heard the story of the Phantom?" Lisa gave him a sideways glance. "The ghost ship. That's just a spacer tale to scare new recruits." "Maybe." Jack pulled up the star chart, pointing to a pattern of dimming that seemed to move across the sector. But every tale has some truth at its core. The legend of the Phantom had haunted the spacer community for generations. A massive ghost ship that appeared without warning, dimming all light around it before disappearing again, leaving only destruction in its wake. Most educated people dismissed it as superstition, a way for lonely miners to explain equipment failures and natural phenomena they didn't understand. "Captain," called out Ben, the young communications officer, his voice unusually tight. "I've lost contact with Mining Outpost 42. Jack turned sharply. "What do you mean, lost contact?" 1 minute they were sending their regular update. The next, nothing. Ben's fingers flew over his console. "Outpost 37 isn't responding either." A chill ran through the bridge that had nothing to do with the ship's temperature regulators. The 2 outposts lay in the direction of the dimming stars. "It could be a solar flare disrupting communications," Lisa offered, but her voice lacked conviction. "Both outposts at once." Jack shook his head. "Not likely." He pushed himself out of his chair and moved to the large view screen at the front of the bridge. The stars looked normal to the naked eye, but the sensors didn't lie. Something was absorbing the light out there. "Mark." He called to the pilot, "Set a course for Outpost 42. Let's see what's happening." Mark nodded, his hands already programming the new coordinates. Course plotted. "We'll be there in 6 hours at standard speed." Jack hesitated. Standard speed would save fuel, but every instinct told him that time might be crucial. "Make it full burn," he ordered. "I want us there in 3. The engines roared to life, pushing the crew back into their seats as the horizon accelerated. Jack gripped the armrests of his chair, his mind racing through possibilities. Equipment malfunction. Unlikely. Natural phenomenon. Nothing he knew of could dim stars across an entire sector. "Captain," Lisa called from her station, her voice tight. "I've been analyzing the pattern of the dimming. It's moving. Moving." Jack swiveled to face her. "Yes, and not randomly." She projected a chart onto the main screen. "If I track the progression over the last 6 hours, it forms a clear path. Whatever is causing this is large, and it's heading directly toward the Centauri colonies. The Centauri system housed humanity's largest off-Earth settlements, home to millions of people. If something threatening was heading there, Ben, send an urgent message to Earth Command. Include all sensor data and Lisa's analysis." Ben nodded, his fingers already typing. "Message composed, sir, but..." He trailed off, frowning at his screen. "I can't get a clear channel. There's some kind of interference." "Keep trying," Jack ordered, turning back to Lisa. "What could cause this kind of light absorption on such a scale?" Lisa shook her head, her expression troubled. "Nothing natural that I know of. The only theoretical possibility would be a massive object using some kind of energy harvesting technology beyond our current understanding. Technology, Jack repeated. So we're talking about a ship. If it is, it's bigger than anything humans have ever built, Lisa replied quietly. The bridge fell silent as the implications sank in. If it wasn't human technology, then what, or who, had built it? A sudden beep from Ben's console broke the silence. Captain, I'm receiving a distress call. Put it through, Jack commanded, straightening in his chair. The message was broken, filled with static, but the fear in the voice came through clearly. Research Station Galileo. Massive object approached. All power failing. Need immediate. The message cut off. Location, Jack demanded. Research Station Galileo, Ben replied, pulling up the coordinates. It's directly in the path between us and Outpost 42. Jack made his decision instantly. Mark, adjust course for the Galileo station. Maximum speed. As the horizon changed direction, Jack pulled up everything they had on the research station. It was small, staffed by only 20 scientists studying gravitational anomalies in the sector. They weren't equipped to deal with any kind of threat. All crew to alert stations, Jack announced over the ship-wide comm. We may be heading into a rescue situation. Medical team, prepare for possible casualties. The next 2 hours passed in tense silence, the crew checking and rechecking their equipment, preparing for whatever they might find. Jack spent the time reviewing old reports of missing ships and unexplained phenomena in the sector, looking for patterns that might explain what they were facing. There, Mark said suddenly, pointing at the view screen. In the distance, they could see the small, cylindrical shape of the research station. It appeared intact, but all its external lights were dark. Life signs? Jack asked. Lisa studied her readings. Faint, but present. I'm detecting approximately 15 individuals still alive inside. And the object that attacked them? No sign of it on regular scanners, Lisa replied. But look at this. She adjusted the settings to show energy readings. There's a massive void moving away from the station at high speed. It's not reflecting light, not emitting heat. It's like a hole in space. Jack stared at the screen, feeling a knot in his stomach. The old stories described the Phantom exactly that way, not as a visible ship, but as a darkness that moved among the stars. Take us in, he ordered quietly. Let's get those survivors. As the horizon approached the silent research station, Jack couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning. The ghost ship that spacers had whispered about for generations was real, and it was heading toward the most populated human colonies in this part of space. Whatever it was, they had to find a way to stop it, or millions would die. The docking procedure took longer than usual. Research Station Galileo's automatic systems were offline, forcing Mark to manually align the horizon with the emergency airlock. The magnetic clamps engaged with a dull thud that reverberated through the hull. Docking complete, Mark announced, his voice tight with concentration. Captain Jack Reed nodded, checking the seal readings on his display. Good work. Lisa, Ben, you're with me. Dan, prepare the medical bay for survivors. The 3 crew members moved quickly to the airlock, securing their emergency gear. They wouldn't need full space suits inside the station, but the portable oxygen masks and lights were essential. No one knew what conditions awaited them. Pressure is stable on the other side, Lisa reported, checking her handheld scanner. Oxygen levels are low but breathable. Jack nodded. Let's move. The airlock cycled open with a hiss, revealing a dark corridor beyond. Their flashlights cut through the gloom, illuminating walls marked with scorch patterns. Emergency lights blinked weakly, casting eerie red shadows. Hello, Jack called out, his voice echoing. This is Captain Reed of the mining vessel Horizon. We received your distress call. Silence answered him, but Lisa's scanner beeped softly. Life signs ahead, she whispered. Multiple readings. They moved forward cautiously, passing through what had once been a busy research center. Tables were overturned, Equipment scattered across the floor. Whatever had happened here had been violent and sudden. A voice called out from the darkness ahead. "Over here. We're in the main lab." Following the voice, they found a group of haggard-looking researchers huddled in what appeared to be the station's central laboratory. Emergency barriers had been erected around the doors, and the survivors had gathered whatever functioning equipment remained. A tall man with a gray beard stepped forward. Despite his disheveled appearance, he carried himself with the authority of someone used to being in charge. "Dr. Tom Wilson," he introduced himself, extending a hand to Jack. "Station Director. Thank God you received our message." "What happened here?" Jack asked, looking around at the damaged lab. Wilson's face darkened. "Something impossible. We were conducting routine gravitational studies when our sensors detected a massive object approaching. At first, we thought it was a rogue planet or asteroid. But," he trailed off, shaking his head. "But what?" Lisa prompted gently. "It wasn't natural," Wilson continued. "It moved with purpose, changing course to approach us directly. As it got closer, our systems began to fail. First, the external sensors, then communications, then power. It was as if it was feeding on our energy." Jack and Lisa exchanged glances. The description matched perfectly with what they had observed in the star system. "Did you get visual confirmation?" Jack asked. Wilson nodded and turned to a young woman sitting by one of the few functioning computers. "Maya, show them the footage." Maya tapped a few commands, and a grainy video appeared on the screen. The image showed the star field outside the station, normal at first. Then, slowly, a section of stars began to disappear, not as if blocked by a solid object, but as if the light itself was being absorbed. The darkness grew, forming a massive shape that defied easy description. Like a ship, but with proportions that made no sense, curves and angles that seemed to shift even as you watched them. "We estimate it was at least 5 kilometers long," Wilson said quietly, "possibly much larger." "And you're certain it was artificial?" Lisa asked, studying the footage with narrowed eyes. "Absolutely," Wilson replied. "Look at this." He motioned to Maya, who switched to a different recording. This one showed energy readings, gravitational measurements, and radiation patterns. The structure emitted a field that absorbed electromagnetic energy, Wilson explained, but it did so selectively, with patterns that couldn't possibly occur naturally. "And here," he pointed to a section of the data. "These are propulsion signatures. Advanced, like nothing we've ever developed, but definitely artificial." Jack felt a cold weight settling in his stomach. "Where did it go after it passed your station?" Wilson pulled up a star chart. Based on its trajectory, it's heading toward the Procyon system, which would put the mining colonies at Beta Hedri directly in its path. "Those colonies have over 10,000 people," Ben said, his voice tight. "We need to warn them," Jack decided immediately, "and Earth Command needs to know about this." "That's the problem," Wilson said grimly. "Long-range communications don't work anywhere near that thing. It creates some kind of dampening field that extends for millions of kilometers. We couldn't get a signal out until it was well past us, and even then, our equipment was so damaged, we could only manage that brief distress call you received." Jack turned to Ben. "Try to establish contact with the horizon. See if they can reach Earth Command from our current position." Ben nodded and moved away, activating his communicator. Lisa was still studying the data on Maya's screen. "Did you recover any other information? Anything about its origins or purpose?" "Just this," Wilson said, bringing up another file. "We detected these signals emanating from the object. They're not like any communication protocol I've ever seen." The screen displayed a series of complex waveforms, pulsing in patterns that seemed almost organic. "It was broadcasting?" Jack asked, surprised. "Or talking to itself," Wilson suggested. "The signals were contained within its own structure, not directed outward." Ben returned, his expression grim. "The horizon can't establish contact with Earth Command or any of the colonies. Something still blocking long-range communications. Jack considered their options. The mining vessel wasn't built for combat, but they couldn't simply let this phantom, continue on its path of destruction. "Dr. Wilson, how many of your people can travel?" he asked. "Most of us," Wilson replied. "We have 3 with minor injuries, but they can be moved." "Good. We're evacuating this station. You're coming with us on the horizon." Wilson nodded gratefully. "What's your plan, Captain?" Jack looked back at the image of the darkness moving among the stars. "We're going to follow it. Document it. Find a way to communicate with Earth Command about what we're facing." "Follow it?" Maya asked, eyes wide. "That thing nearly destroyed us just by passing by." "We'll keep our distance," Jack assured her. "But someone needs to track this entity, learn its patterns, find its weaknesses. If we don't, millions of lives could be at risk." As the researchers gathered their most important data and equipment, Jack pulled Lisa aside. "What do you think?" he asked quietly. "Is this really the legendary Phantom?" Lisa considered for a moment. "The stories describe a ship that dims stars and brings destruction. This certainly fits, but the legends are just that, legends. They don't tell us anything useful about what this thing actually is or how to stop it." Jack nodded. "We need more information." "There's something else," Lisa added, her voice low. "The energy absorption patterns. They're increasing. Whatever this thing is doing, it's ramping up. If it reaches a populated system while harvesting energy at that rate, it would be catastrophic." Jack finished her thought. As they helped the scientists transfer to the horizon, Jack couldn't shake the feeling that they were stepping into something far bigger than they could handle. But what choice did they have? The ghost ship was real, and it was heading toward the heart of human-settled space. Whatever ancient forces had created the Phantom, whatever purpose drove its silent journey between the stars, Jack was determined to find answers before it was too late. The horizon hummed with tension as it moved through space at a cautious distance behind the Phantom. 3 days had passed since they evacuated the research station, and Captain Jack Reed had transformed his mining vessel into an improvised research ship. The mess hall now served as a makeshift laboratory, where Dr. Wilson and his team worked alongside Lisa, analyzing the mountain of data they were collecting. "It's maintaining a constant speed," Mark reported from the pilot's station. "Still on course for the Procyon system." Jack nodded, studying the main view screen. They couldn't see the Phantom directly, only the void it created as it absorbed light and energy from the surrounding space. They had learned to track it by what wasn't there rather than what was. "How's our distance?" Jack asked. "Holding at 5 million kilometers," Mark replied. "Any closer and we risk being detected by whatever sensors it has." Jack turned as the bridge door slid open. Lisa entered, followed by Dr. Wilson. Both looked exhausted but excited. "We found something," Lisa announced, connecting her tablet to the main display. "Show him, Tom." Dr. Wilson stepped forward, bringing up a series of images. "We've been searching databases from various colonies for any historical record of similar phenomena. Most turned up nothing, but then we found this." The screen displayed ancient text that Jack didn't recognize. "What am I looking at?" "This is from the archives on Proxima Centauri," Wilson explained. "The first colony humans established outside our solar system. When settlers arrived, they found ruins of a previous civilization. Not much, just fragments. This is one of the texts they recovered." Lisa zoomed in on a particular section. The translation is rough, but it describes what they call the harvester of light that appears every few centuries. Jack leaned forward. "So this thing has been around for thousands of years." "Possibly millions," Wilson corrected. "The ruins on Proxima Centauri are estimated to be at least 500,000 years old. And that's not all. We found similar references in 3 other alien databases from completely different star systems. Different species, different times, all describing the same phenomenon," Lisa added. "A massive ship that absorbs energy and brings darkness." Jack processed this information slowly. So it moves between star systems, appears for a while, then disappears again for centuries. That's our theory. Wilson nodded. But why? What's its purpose? Before Jack could respond, Mike, the ship's engineer, burst onto the bridge. His normally neat uniform was stained with grease and excitement brightened his tired eyes. "Captain, I think I've got something," he announced. "A way to get closer to that thing without it detecting us." All eyes turned to him as he explained. "I've been studying how the phantom affects our systems. It doesn't just absorb visible light. It pulls in all the electromagnetic energy, but it does so in a predictable pattern, like waves." Mike connected his own device to the display, showing a complex waveform. "If we modify our shields to pulse in the exact opposite pattern, we might be able to create a kind of invisibility. Not true invisibility, but enough to mask our energy signature." "How close could we get?" Jack asked. Mike considered. "Hard to say without testing. Maybe 100,000 kilometers. Close enough to get much better readings." Jack looked around at his team. The risk was clear, but so was the necessity. No one else was tracking this threat, and with communications still blocked, they couldn't warn the colonies in its path. "How long to implement these modifications?" he asked. 12 hours, Mike replied. "I've already started adapting the shield generators." "Do it," Jack ordered. "But I want a safety measure. If the shields fail, or were detected, the engines need to be ready for immediate maximum acceleration to get us out of there." Mike nodded grimly and hurried back to engineering. The next 12 hours passed in tense preparation. Jack ordered all non-essential systems powered down to minimize their energy signature. The scientists worked in shifts, analyzing data and preparing new sensor arrays for their closer approach. When all was ready, Jack gathered the senior crew on the bridge. "This is a volunteer mission," he announced. "I won't order anyone to come with me. The Phantom has already destroyed at least 2 outposts that we know of and damaged the research station. Getting closer puts us all at risk." A moment of silence followed. Then Mark spoke up from the pilot's seat. "Where else are we going to go, Captain? If that thing reaches a major colony, thousands will die." "I'm in." One by one, the others nodded. No one stepped back. Jack felt a surge of pride. "All right. Mark, take us in." Nice and slow. The horizon crept forward, its modified shields pulsing in the pattern Mike had designed. On the view screen, the darkness that was the Phantom grew larger as they closed the distance. 1,000,000 kilometers, Mark reported. All systems normal. 500,000 kilometers, he updated minutes later. No change in the Phantom's course or behavior. Lisa monitored the sensor readings. "We're getting much clearer data now. The energy absorption is even more advanced than we thought. It's not just collecting energy, it's converting it with almost perfect efficiency." 200,000 kilometers, Mark announced. Still no reaction. Jack allowed himself a small smile. Mike's shield modifications were working. 150,000 kilometers. The bridge was silent except for the soft beeping of instruments. They were closer to the Phantom than any ship had ever come and survived. 100,000 kilometers, Mark said, holding position here as planned. "Full sensor sweep," Jack ordered. "Let's learn everything we can while we're—" He never finished the sentence. The ship lurched violently, throwing everyone against their restraints. "What happened?" Jack demanded. "It's changing course," Mark shouted, his hands flying over the controls. "It's turning. It's turning toward us." The view screen confirmed his words. The void in space was shifting, rotating until it faced them directly. "It knows we're here," Lisa whispered. "But how? The shields should have masked our presence." "Maybe it doesn't use conventional sensors," Wilson suggested, gripping a console for support. "Maybe it can detect us by the very absence we create in its energy collection field." "Evasive maneuvers," Jack ordered. "Maximum speed away from the Phantom." The Horizon's engines roared to life, pushing the crew back into their seats as the ship accelerated. On the screen, the darkness seemed to stretch, reaching toward them like a giant hand. "It's accelerating too," Mark reported, his voice strained, "matching our speed exactly." Jack felt cold fear spread through his chest. They had awakened something ancient and powerful, and now it was hunting them. "Reroute all power to engines," he commanded. "Even life support if you have to. We need to outrun this thing." But even as the words left his mouth, Jack knew it was futile. The Phantom moved with impossible grace, closing the distance despite their desperate flight. "Captain," Lisa said quietly, her eyes fixed on her readings, "it's not just following us. I think it's scanning us." Jack turned to her. "What do you mean?" "These energy patterns," she explained, pointing to her screen. "They're systematic, methodical, like it's taking us apart layer by layer with its sensors." A new, terrifying thought occurred to Jack. "It's not trying to destroy us," he realized. "It's curious about us." As if confirming his words, the pursuit suddenly slowed. The Phantom matched their pace exactly, maintaining a constant distance of 50,000 kilometers. "What's it doing now?" Wilson asked. Jack stared at the screen, at the impossible shape following them through the void. For the first time, he wondered if they were dealing with something that might be truly intelligent, not just a program machine, but an entity with its own purposes and thoughts. "I think," he said slowly, "it wants us to follow it now." The chase had become something else entirely, an invitation to the unknown. The Horizon drifted silently, caught in the invisible grip of the Phantom's tractor beam. The mining vessel's engines strained at full power, but couldn't break free from the strange energy field pulling them inexorably toward the massive ghost ship. "Cut the engines," Jack ordered, his voice calm despite the fear tightening his chest. "We're wasting fuel." Mark reluctantly powered down the engines. The sudden silence felt heavy on the bridge. "What now, Captain?" Lisa asked, her eyes fixed on the view screen where the enormous dark shape of the Phantom grew larger by the minute. Jack considered their options, which were few. "We can't outrun it. We can't fight it. So we learn about it." He stood, addressing the gathered crew and scientists. "I'm going to board that ship." A chorus of protests erupted, but Jack raised his hand for silence. "This may be humanity's only chance to understand what we're dealing with," he explained. "Dr. Wilson's research suggests this thing has been visiting star systems for hundreds of thousands of years. If we can learn its purpose, maybe we can communicate with it, reason with it, or find a way to stop it." "It's suicide," Ben argued. "We don't even know if there's an atmosphere over there. The sensor readings suggest there are pressurized areas within the structure," Lisa countered, bringing up the data on her screen. "And look at these energy signatures. They're consistent with some kind of life support system, though far more advanced than anything we use." Jack nodded. "I'll take a team of 4. Lisa, I need your scientific expertise. Mike, your engineering knowledge will be essential. Dr. Wilson, your historical research makes you valuable. And I'll need 1 security officer. Rob, that's you." The chosen team members exchanged nervous glances, but none objected. "We'll take emergency suits, weapons, and communication equipment," Jack continued. "The rest of you will remain on the Horizon. If we don't return within 6 hours, you try to break free and warn any colonies you can reach." The next hour was spent in tense preparation. The boarding team donned their emergency suits, lightweight versions of full spacesuits, designed for short excursions in potentially hazardous but pressurized environments. As they gathered in the airlock, Jack checked each team member's equipment one final time. "Stay together at all times. Report everything you see, no matter how strange. And remember, we're explorers first, not soldiers." The Horizon was now pressed against the dark hull of the Phantom. Up close, the surface wasn't solid black, as it had appeared from a distance, but a shifting pattern of deep purples, blues, and blacks that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. No visible entrance, Mike noted, scanning the hull with a handheld device. But there's a thin area here, some kind of airlock, maybe. As if responding to his words, the surface before them suddenly rippled and parted, creating an opening into darkness beyond. The team exchanged uncertain glances. "It's inviting us in," Lisa whispered. "Or it's a trap," Rob countered, gripping his weapon tighter. Jack activated his suit lights and stepped toward the opening. Only one way to find out. The interior of the Phantom defied understanding. The corridors seemed to shift and change as they moved, walls flowing like liquid metal before solidifying again in new configurations. Their suit sensors confirmed breathable atmosphere, but Jack ordered the team to keep their helmets sealed. At least for now. "It's like it's rearranging itself around us," Lisa observed, recording everything with her equipment. "Maybe responding to our presence." Dr. Wilson stopped suddenly, pointing at the wall. "Look at these markings." The surface was covered in intricate patterns that resembled writing, but unlike any language any of them had ever seen. The symbols seemed to pulse with a faint internal light, similar to fragments found in the ruins on Proxima Centauri, Wilson noted excitedly. "But these are intact, complete. Can you translate any of it?" Jack asked. Wilson shook his head. "Not without more time and better equipment. But the patterns suggest a highly advanced mathematical system, possibly a language based on energy states rather than sounds or images." They continued deeper into the ship, the passage widening into a vast chamber that stretched beyond the range of their lights. Massive structures rose from the floor and hung from the ceiling, resembling nothing so much as the components of a giant machine. "This technology," Mike breathed, his engineer's mind struggling to comprehend what he was seeing. "It's millions of years beyond us. Maybe tens of millions." "But where's the crew?" Rob asked, sweeping his light across the empty chamber. As they moved forward, the floor suddenly displayed a glowing path, leading them through the massive space. "It's guiding us," Jack realized, "or hurting us." With no better alternative, they followed the path, which led them through a series of increasingly complex chambers. In each one, they observed different systems, some that seemed to be for navigation, others that might be weapons or defensive systems, though it was hard to be certain with technology so far beyond their understanding. "Captain," Lisa called, her voice tight with excitement. "I think this is what we're looking for." They had entered what appeared to be a central control hub, a vast hemispherical room filled with swirling patterns of light and energy that coalesced into what looked like star maps, but on a scale that showed not just systems but entire galactic sectors. In the center, a pulsing core of blue-white light cast eerie shadows across their faces. "It's beautiful," Wilson whispered. Mike approached one of the wall panels, which seemed to be displaying information. "This looks like some kind of planning interface. See these vectors?" He pointed to lines stretching from their current position toward populated human systems. "Attack vectors," Rob asked grimly. "Or navigation routes," Lisa suggested. "It's mapping the most efficient paths through multiple star systems." Jack studied the display, a cold realization forming in his mind. "Look at the pattern. It's not random. It's systematically targeting systems with the highest energy output." Lisa nodded slowly. "Human colonies, power stations, mining operations, they all produce massive energy signatures. If this thing feeds on energy, then we're lighting up the buffet," Mike finished grimly. Wilson had moved to another section of the room, where a different kind of display showed what looked like a massive storage system. "I don't think it's just feeding," he said. "Look at this. It's collecting, storing energy on an unimaginable scale." Lisa joined him, her eyes widening as she studied the readings. "The efficiency is perfect, no loss at all. It's storing every bit of energy it collects." She turned to Jack. "But why? What could possibly need this much power?" Before Jack could respond, the entire room shifted. The displays changed, showing new information. Images flashing by too quickly to comprehend, but giving impressions of devastation, of entire worlds going dark, of a catastrophe on a galactic scale. "I think it's trying to communicate," Wilson said excitedly. The images slowed, focusing on a single repeating sequence, a brilliant flash of light expanding from the center of the galaxy, followed by darkness spreading outward like a wave. "A supernova," Lisa suggested. "No, bigger, much bigger." "The galactic core," Wilson breathed. "It's showing an explosion at the galactic core." Mike shook his head. "But that's impossible. Our galactic core is stable. There's nothing that could cause an explosion on that scale." "Maybe not now," Jack said slowly, the pieces falling into place in his mind. "But what about millions of years ago? Or millions of years in the future?" The images shifted again, now showing the Phantom, or ships like it, gathering energy, storing it, protecting it from the advancing wave of darkness. "It's not a weapon," Jack realized. "It's an ark, a lifeboat." Wilson's eyes widened. "Preserving energy and knowledge against some cosmic catastrophe." "But who built it?" Rob asked. "And where are they now?" The answer came in a final series of images, beings of light and energy, transforming themselves into something else, becoming one with their creation. "They're gone," Lisa whispered. "They uploaded themselves into the ship somehow, or transformed into energy, or they died out millions of years ago," Jack said quietly, "and left this ship running on automatic, still following its programming, still preparing for a disaster that might never come, or might be millions of years in our future." The team stood in silence, absorbing the enormity of their discovery. They had boarded a ghost ship indeed, the last legacy of an ancient civilization, still faithfully carrying out its mission long after its creators had vanished from the galaxy. "We need to take this information back to the horizon," Jack decided finally. "Humanity needs to know what we're dealing with." As they turned to leave, the ship shuddered around them, and new images appeared on the displays. Warning signals, flashing with unmistakable urgency. "Something's happening," Wilson said. "Something's changed." Jack looked at the displays, trying to understand. The Phantom wasn't just a relic. It was active, aware in some way. And now, it seemed, it had detected a new threat. The question was, to the ship or to humanity? The journey back to the horizon was chaotic. The Phantom's corridors shifted and reformed around them, as alert signals pulsed through the ancient vessel. Jack led his team through the changing maze, guided as much by instinct as by any recognizable path. "What's happening?" Rob shouted over the strange, low humming that now filled the air. "I think it's responding to something," Lisa replied, checking her scanner. "Some kind of external threat." They finally reached the airlock where they had entered. The horizon waited on the other side, still held firmly in the Phantom's grip. As they crossed back to their ship, Jack felt the massive ghost ship trembling around them. Once aboard, they rushed to the bridge, where Mark looked up from his console with relief. "Captain, we were about to send a rescue team," he said. "Something's happening out there." The main view screen showed a new development. In the distance, tiny points of light were approaching. Ships, dozens of them, moving in formation. "Earth Command," Ben confirmed, monitoring communications. "They're hailing us." Jack activated the comms. "This is Captain Reed of the mining vessel Horizon. We've made contact with the object." A stern voice replied, "Captain Reed, this is Admiral James of the Earth Defense Fleet. Stand by for extraction. We're going to destroy that thing before it reaches any more colonies." Jack exchanged alarmed glances with his team. "Admiral, wait. The Phantom isn't what we thought. It's not a weapon. It's an ark, a preservation vessel built by an ancient civilization." "Captain," the Admiral responded coldly, "that ark has destroyed 2 outposts and damaged a research station. We've tracked its projected course. It's heading directly toward the Centauri colonies. Millions of lives are at stake." "It's not attacking deliberately," Jack insisted. It's harvesting energy according to programming that's millions of years old. Its creators are long gone, but the ship is still following its mission. On the view screen, the Earth fleet spread out, taking offensive positions around the Phantom. Advanced weapon systems came online, targeting the ancient vessel. "We need time," Dr. Wilson urged. "The knowledge contained in that ship could advance human technology by centuries, maybe millennia." Lisa stepped forward. "Admiral, the ship is storing energy for a reason. Its builders were preparing for a galactic catastrophe, possibly a massive explosion at the galactic core. If we destroy it, we lose not just knowledge but possibly our best defense against a future disaster." There was a pause before the Admiral responded. "You have 15 minutes to provide proof of your claims, Captain. After that, we destroy it." Jack turned to his team. "Mike, what did you learn about the ship's systems? Is there any way to communicate with it, to redirect it?" Mike hesitated. "Maybe. I identified what looked like command protocols when we were in the control hub. With Lisa's help, I might be able to access them from here." "Do it," Jack ordered. "Wilson, gather all the data we collected about the ship's origins and purpose. Then, prepare to transmit everything to the Admiral." As they worked frantically, the Phantom suddenly released its hold on the horizon, causing the smaller ship to drift free. "It's letting us go," Mark realized. Jack nodded. "It doesn't see us as a threat anymore. But them." He gestured toward the Earth fleet. "They're another story." The view screen showed the Phantom's surface beginning to ripple and shift, sections reconfiguring into what looked disturbingly like defensive positions. "Captain," Mike called from his workstation, "I think I've found something." The ship operates on a basic priority system. Its primary directive is energy collection and storage, but it also has threat assessment protocols. Lisa joined him, studying the data. "It's categorizing the Earth fleet as a Level 1 threat. That's why it's preparing to defend itself." "Can we change that classification?" Jack asked. Mike nodded slowly. "I think so. We recorded the access sequences in the control hub. If we can transmit the right pattern." "Do it," Jack commanded. "And can we redirect its harvesting pattern? Away from populated areas?" "Theoretically," Lisa said. "If we can get it to recognize human settlements as something to avoid rather than energy sources to collect." While they worked, Jack contacted Admiral James again. "Admiral, we're attempting to communicate with the vessel. Please hold your fire." "10 minutes, Captain," came the terse reply. The next few minutes passed in tense silence as Mike and Lisa worked to access the ancient ship's command systems. Finally, Mike looked up, his face showing cautious hope. "I think we've done it," he announced. "I've reclassified Earth ships as non-threats and reprogrammed its harvesting patterns to avoid populated systems." "Is it responding?" Jack asked. As if in answer, the Phantom's defensive configurations began to retract. Its surface smoothed, returning to the shifting patterns they had first observed. "It's working," Lisa breathed. Jack quickly contacted the Admiral. "The ship is standing down. We've managed to reprogram its harvesting protocols to avoid human settlements." There was a long pause before the Admiral responded. "Impressive, Captain. But that thing is still too dangerous to leave wandering the galaxy. What happens if it reverts to its original programming?" "I have a better idea," Jack said, the beginnings of a plan forming in his mind. "Admiral, this ship contains technology millions of years beyond our own. It can harvest and store energy with perfect efficiency. Imagine what humanity could learn from it, what we could accomplish." "What are you suggesting?" the Admiral asked cautiously. "Don't destroy it. Repurpose it," Jack proposed. "This vessel was designed as an ark, to preserve knowledge and energy against a cosmic threat. What if we used it for its intended purpose, but under human guidance?" Dr. Wilson caught on immediately. "Earth's first true interstellar ark ship." "Exactly," Jack nodded. "We've already proven we can communicate with its systems, redirect its behavior. With time and resources, we could fully understand and control it." The Admiral was silent for a long moment. "You're talking about the most significant technological acquisition in human history." "I am," Jack confirmed. "And possibly our greatest protection against future threats we can't even imagine yet." 3 months later, Jack stood on the observation deck of Earth Command Headquarters, watching as hundreds of scientists and engineers swarmed over and around the Phantom. The massive vessel had been moved to a stable orbit around Jupiter, where teams worked day and night to unlock its secrets. Admiral James joined him, looking out at the activity. "Your discovery has changed everything, Captain. The technology we've already reverse-engineered has revolutionized our energy systems." Jack nodded. "And the star maps and historical data it contained have expanded our understanding of the galaxy tenfold. The President wants to rename it," the Admiral mentioned. "Something less ominous than the Phantom." "What did they decide on?" Jack asked. "Phoenix," the Admiral replied. "From darkness and legend, reborn into light and reality." Jack smiled, thinking it fitting. What had once been feared as a harbinger of doom had become humanity's greatest leap forward. The ancient builders, whoever they had been, could never have imagined their creation would find new purpose millions of years later, serving another species entirely. As he watched the teams working on the massive vessel, Jack thought about the legends that had surrounded the ghost ship for generations. Spacers would still tell stories, he knew, but they would be different now. Not tales of fear and destruction, but of discovery and hope. The ghost ship was no longer a legend. It was humanity's future.